Thank you very much, Richard, for coming to my podcast, Business Breakthroughs. It's very nice having you in here. So we met obviously through the PSA, and then you came deliver a keynote in Edinburgh. It was very good. It was really good feedback. Everybody loved it. And then here we are shooting the podcast. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, about what is it you do, so we can share with the listeners?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Richard Pascoe. I live in Leeds, but work globally down a webcam mostly. And what do? I help people speak brilliantly. I'm a presentation skills coach, trainer, consultant in all that sort of range of things. So that's the really short version of what I do. Do you want the longer version, Vincent?
Yeah, you can feel free to share more, yeah.
Yeah. So my background is I worked in sort of a big global company for 18 years, Procter Gamble. I've worked in sales, but I'm a geek, so I gravitated towards sales, marketing, understanding, analysis, shopper understanding. So I worked in insights for very many years. But through all that, just time and time again, saw really charismatic, brilliant, interesting people, especially in sales, full of people with such charisma, who were surprisingly unimpressive presenters. You know, they were quite good, but they should have been great. Or they were great, and they should have been absolutely phenomenal, just because of the sort of people they were. And initially I got frustrated that why weren't we helping these people present and communicate as well as they should? You know, this is about driving business, and driving business is about sharing ideas. And part of sharing ideas is about presenting your information well. It seemed insane. And I was really lucky many years ago. A colleague called Jonathan Brown took me to one side and to, stop complaining about this, stop worrying about this, do something. So it's been my passion ever since, which is advanced presentation skills in business and commercial settings. And I used to do that on the side while having a sales and insights career, but 10 years ago left and now do it full time, working with all sorts of clients like Procter Gamble, like Carlsberg, like Mattel, like Velux, like others. Just how do I help people just speak as well as they're capable of speaking?
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing. And how do people take it? Let's say the company hires you to help this certain people with the presentation. So now you'll show up on the workshop, or I don't know if it's in a workshop setting, is it one-to-one setting, and how do they after take it? Because I can imagine, like, okay, I'm a person, this is my job, this is my position, and now I know what I know about this, and then somebody will come like, no, you need to be better in presenting, let's help you, and I'll be like, do I really want to be? How people are reacting to that when the company hires you?
So that's a really good question. In most situations, people are in the room, and I say room, that might be a physical room or a virtual room, but in most situations, if they're in the room, they're there because they want to be. Because most people want to get better at presenting. Most people, whatever stage they're at in their development, from quite good to great, they all want to step up a level or two. So in that case, it's fine. They're in a room, they're feeling nervous because there are human anxieties about this topic, but they're there, they want to learn, and off you go. What you're picking at is occasionally you're in a training situation where the person is there because they've been told they need to get better at this. And that is harder. And look, you're an experienced facilitator as well. It's part of our job is to, in that case, don't dive too quickly into skills and new knowledge and new framework. You've got to start with, why might you want to get better at this? You got to work on their mindset first. You've got to get them to relax and go, trust you, and get on with it. So if it's a one-to-one situation, it is about really taking the time to get to know them a little bit and really understand where their skills are and where their aspirations are and what they would like to improve. And then you go. If it's in a training setting, it's a little bit the same thing. Get them in small groups and on their own, just thinking about why are they here? What do they want to learn? And I find almost everybody, even if they have walked into the room going, I'm not sure I want to be here, which is rare in itself, but even if they are walking in, give them a few minutes to go, would it be better to be able to express yourself better, to feel more comfortable, to have better messages, better ideas, tell better stories, design better slides? I mean, very few of us are going to go, no, that seems like a waste of time. It's such an important skill at whatever point you are in your career. We need to be able to express our ideas persuasively, interestingly, on all these different things.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yeah. It's about knowing how to present that. Like, there's so many people that have good ideas, they are smart, but if they don't really know how to share it with the others, like, it's not going to work, right? I have actually a very good example which just happened 2 weeks ago. We were running a mastermind in Romania, and there was this new guy. He's from UK, and he came. I never met him, and then he was there with us for 5 days. But when he was speaking with us, either in the room or after during the lunch, he was speaking, and every single time I had to do like, "What did you say? Can you repeat? What was that?" And because he was mumbling, he wasn't opening a mouth at all, like not really opening his mouth. And he is super smart. He is doing very good in the business, but he doesn't speak very well. So we were actually doing some exercises for voice and opening mouth to kind of get him going, but he was really struggling with that. So he's coming again for the mastermind, which is the speaking one. I got him to join the PSA as well in his region. I'm like, you need to go there, see the speakers, and just practice, because once you're going to master that, really another opportunities will open up for you, and then you'll be able to do well. But like, sometimes, like, there was, I think, the extreme I saw, like, from someone to really, and I have spoken with other people, and they were like, yeah, I don't really know what he's saying. I'm like, yeah, you need to speak louder, open up, so
which is part of why this has always been such a fascinating area to me. One is there's so many different parts to it, when it comes to visual design or storytelling format, or you're getting into some of the mechanics of the voice.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, it's something that people don't always tell you how you're coming across. There's a hesitancy to take someone to Vincent, what you have done is a kindness. You are a smart person with great ideas, but actually here's something holding you back from me being able to engage with what you're saying. And in this case, I can't hear you. But how often do people, not tell people this? They just sort of, that person, I couldn't hear them, that's their fault, versus coming in and finding a solution to these things.
And then it was actually the beauty of the mastermind, because it was 5 days long. And I told him that on the day 4, I think. I had to really build a relationship with over the days. I wouldn't come in the first day. It's like, hey, you are mumbling. You don't, I didn't know the guy. I'm like, I need to build some connection with him. But because we spend together like 10 hours a day, so on the day 4, I think, when we've been having a dinner, I told him like, hey, can I be honest with you? And he said like, yeah. And I told him that, and he's like, yeah, I know. And he told me the reason why is that. And then I'm like, yeah, sure. So let's work on that. But it's really like, normally people, even if you go, let's say, to PSA, you do showcase for 10 minutes, people are not comfortable to tell you everything, because then they are like, they want to offend to others. Yeah. So it can be tough.
It can be, but it's also hugely rewarding to help people. But you're right, you have to build some things up. So one of our training courses is across topics within presentation skills, and we do it across 5 days, lots of virtual sessions across 5 days. Where am I going? The first 3 sessions actually are quite content exploration led, and obviously at the back end of the training, they deliver a presentation to a small group and get feedback. But the important thing is, before they deliver that on the final day, on the Friday, on the day before, we get one-to-one time with them. Why is that so important? It's exactly what you're saying, Vincent. Across the first 3 days, we get to know them, they get to know us, actually, and they get to trust our expertise. On that Friday, there's a great opportunity for them to really push themselves and to deliver a presentation. And yes, get expert feedback and collective group feedback. But that Thursday is invaluable one-to-one, because there are some parts of presenting where you don't really want to have that conversation in a room of other people. You want to be one-to-one with someone who trusts you, so you can explore. Because sometimes you've been very respectful and not got into it, but there are sometimes, personal reasons why someone talks the way they do. There may be something in their past. I've worked with people who stammer, but they maybe not public about the fact they stammer, but it's something holding them back, or there can be some other mechanical thing going on. and having
Yes.
the respect and the care to give people enough time to trust you, enough one-to-one time so you can get into something like that in a safe environment, while still pushing them afterwards to go, you can do better, you can do more, you've got this, is part of our work.
Okay, I have another question for you. So with obviously AI evolving and everybody's using different tools, do you use something for yourself in your business when it comes to presenting? Now, when you mentioned the slides, you need to have a good slides on, or how you are structuring the workshops. Like, do you use any of the tools right now? Because it'll be good to share if you do. Obviously, you are doing it for 10 years. There's a lot of speakers out there who are actually not sure maybe what to use. So if there is anything, maybe you can share.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's such a key question at the moment that we're all working with. And let's be clear, I am not state-of-the-art pioneer in tech. I think you are way ahead of me, Vincent, and the stuff that you guys are doing, I think, is really interesting. But you've asked me for my personal journey.
Yes.
So I'm using a combination of ChatGPT and Claude. I'm not going beyond that yet because I want to get comfortable with those two platforms. And I'm using them mostly in the way that you will smile because you will know this sort of thing, but fantastic for ideation, bouncing ideas back and forth. Here's something I'm trying to put across. Here are some ways in which I'm thinking of putting it across. Help me, respond, build, give me better versions, give me 5 different metaphors for this idea. Let me have a look through. Okay, now I like that, but I don't like that. That sort of iterative creative process, it's fantastic for. I'm a huge fan of still having a human heart and a human brain at the beginning, middle, and end. But as an ideation piece, I'm finding it fantastic. Now, then beyond that, I'm not a great fan of scripts generally. I think there are some business situations where you need one. It's you're delivering an HR presentation where legally and morally you need to be exact in your language. You are stating the future vision of the company, and you absolutely want it as crisp as possible. Okay, then you're going to script. But 99% of the business presentations I saw were better when someone wasn't staring at a piece of paper reading; they were just talking. But if you are going to get into script writing elements, again, ChatGPT and Claude are fantastic at taking these things and giving you different. Can you give me the 2-minute version of this, the half-an-hour version of this, giving you different lengths? It's great. Where I encourage people to use is actually it's fantastic for structure. So, you can use it. Please help me think through a creative idea on how to explain why we're going to change the IT strategy for the next 6 years. But I think actually it knows so many story structures. It knows so many, help me put this into a sequence so it makes sense. Help me make this feel more like a story and have some more interesting elements, or get it to interview you to form some information, which it then structures through. How do I form this into some mod? Because that's often what we lack in business communications. We sort of focus on what's the big message, and we focus on all the details which back up that message. But what's the structure, the framework in the middle? What are the 3 key points? Or what's the building important logical structure? Or what's the story thing? Anyone listening, explore how it can help you do that. Now, what I'm exploring at the moment is how to use it as a way to help me change the tone and style of what I want to put across. And this is a big passion area and a focus area for what I do is working with people how to be a more flexible, versatile presenter, how to not just present in one main way. And I'm finding Claude is a really helpful partner to go, as long as you give it good guidance. Look, here's the presentation. You could even upload the deck or the main notes you have. Help me reform this in a way that I'm going to be presenting, like in my language, a magician, where I want the technology and the idea to just sound enormously powerful, incredibly valuable, enabling people to do things they hadn't thought they can do before. Off you go, give me ideas. Or no, I'm in caregiver mode. Help me reformat this so it's really clear that I'm there to guide them through some quite complicated, difficult things, but I'm going to be with them all the way. Bang, it'll reform. And giving you ideas on how to be a more flexible thing. That's what I'm exploring with AI at the moment.
Perfect. Amazing. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of good ideas. I think one of the things you mentioned, the structure. I think especially like when people are sharing knowledge, let's say they are, I don't know, it doesn't need to be speakers, it can be coaches, it can be anybody who's teaching something to someone to do. And sometimes like when I started, I didn't have any frameworks. Like it was like just start and do something where I learned that and that and that. And then you kind of start and you do those things. And then I know a lot of people still like now recently we kind of created our new framework because I think like we were missing one piece for a while. And now we kind of learned it in the past year and a half. So we kind of added that and now it's kind of, I think it's really good. But I think for the structure, you know, people can put all their information in there, like about what they know, and like, what do you think, how that structure can be? Like, how can we create some kind of a framework around it? It can really help to navigate that process because that can turn into the book, that can enter into course or like when you go to workshop, and then it's kind of steps to follow rather than being random, right?
So yeah, and I think that's such an important point, and yet a really difficult skill, actually. You know, I've been developing training content for 25 years at least now, and it's something which I'm still working to get better at, but finding a way to form a framework in our area of coaching, development, helping people, you know, there's real skill in forming one really big idea. And actually, I'm not as good at that as I am in other things. And look, we're all trying to create a big toolbox of practical tips, techniques, ideas, things like that. But how do you create a framework in the middle so people don't get lost in it? Because otherwise, here's a big idea and here's 15 ways to do it. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that? Here's a big idea and here's a well-organized framework where you can pull bits out with 2 or 3 bits in each one. That's something I can consciously take a bit out on, focus on, put it back and take somewhere else. And that framework, creating something like that, which holds but is not too complicated and also helps you with the thing you're saying. You know, Vincent, you're saying we've realized we lack a bit in that framework. As soon as you create one, then you can go, oh, actually, I need something here. So yeah, anybody, if you're trying to really develop valuable content, big idea, practical tips, but what's the framework in the middle which organizes those things?
So that's actually an interesting thing, and I'll just point out into the AI where so it was last year we started writing a book with Lewis. We said like, let's write a new book about, we wanted to focus only on sales really, and then we kind of were speaking like, no, but we can add that, and then we kind of created that new framework, 4 engines framework, and about, you know, marketing, sales, branding, speaking, and systems and AI. So. And now we have the book ready. We just need to kind of do the cover. And then funny thing is, somebody asked me to, on the Impact conference, she came to me, she's the president for London. She said, can you come and speak in London, deliver a keynote? I'm like, sure, about what? She's like, I don't know, anything to do with business, help people with their business, speaking business. I'm like, sure, yeah, okay, I'll book something. So she sent me a link, you know, the normal form to fill up. I'm like, okay. I'm looking at that form. I'm like, you know, I mean, I can speak about so many things. I'm like, what I'm going to speak about? So I went to AI. I took that book, which we wrote. I'm like, hey, I need the keynote based on that book. It's only 45 minutes. It needs to be concise, you know, but share these 4 ideas. What do we have? A little bit on the surface level. I cannot go deep in 45 minutes, but, you know, cover that. And like, boom, keynote. It also created me slides, which I didn't ask. It created me like 15 slides, pretty good. And then I'm like, okay. And now I'm checking that form and I need to physically fill it up, you know. And I asked my business partner, like, can AI fill it up for me? Like, yeah, you just get that extension. We do that over there. So I'm like, fill up me this form. And then the funny thing is, so now it was filling up the form, and instead of me now doing something different, you know, because AI is working for me, we were watching how is it filling up. Yeah. Like, wow.
Yeah, I think we're all starting to learn that thing. Yeah, when do you watch it in action, which is strangely captivating, and when do you go, no, leave that doing, and I'll do something else, and I'll come back to it. And we're all sort of learning the drumbeat of that within the piece.
Yeah, but I think because it's new, but now I can just let it run and I can do something different. But the first times when you are watching, you're like, wow, it didn't even tick that box. Even it says I will go to London. Even it says like, and then at the end just ask me like, do you want to submit? And I just checked everything. I'm like, yeah, submit, and done, right? So like saving a lot of time with that, like if they are the right tools, yeah. Funny thing you mentioned about these tones, the styles of speaking, caregiver and warrior, and all these different types. So obviously, I mentioned to you we have that Profit Mine AI, and yesterday we've been on the call with JT, and he mentioned that what he'll be adding into that AI, he created 52 personalities to add there, so people can just choose what they want to kind of speak like. So he just created those 52 personalities, like if they want to be more direct, more like conversational. So it's all gonna be added over there. So like when you are forming those presentations, so you can basically choose, and people can do that. Yeah. So there is so many things. Like you mentioned the ChatGPT, Claude. ChatGPT I'm not using anymore, but Claude is very powerful for a lot of different things. So we use the AI which we have plus Claude, these two a lot, because Claude is very good, for example, for formatting like documents, like formatting, making nice, really powerful for that. So it can visually look very good.
And I think it's one of the things I'm finding fascinating is this sense of different personas or characters. Now, what you're getting into so brilliantly is how you have different personas or characters based on the sort of work you're doing. In my area of presentation skills, it's like, how can we start to help, anybody as they're developing some sort of communication, help get the AI to help them adapt the way they're going to put themselves across. And that sounds complicated. So in simple terms, if it's a written document, it's about the style of that written document. Is it going to be friendly and informal? Is it going to be very formal and precise? Is it going to be directing? Is it going to be playful? You can give it some direction.
And let me ask you a question. So if at the moment, for example, let's say I'm your client and I want to develop that kind of like how I'm going to speak. If I'm asking you for that advice, we do one-to-one. So you are able to help me to develop that, right? So I know kind of what's going to be my style because you will work with me.
Yeah, so what we would do is we would look at 4 areas. Here's a framework: set, select, sharpen, and shift. Set would be understanding in different presentation situations, setting a direction, an intent, an objective. Are you there to present, to educate and share knowledge? Are you there to present, to change their thinking, to pitch an idea, to persuade? Are you there mostly to communicate and talk, to connect, build trust, rapport with who you're talking to? Or are you there to direct actions, processes, what we're going to do together and in what order? And look, in most business situations, you're trying to do all 4 of those. But in reality, I'd be working with you to set directions, because in your work, which directions do you need to go in? And secondly, which ones are you good at already? Because I find most people are good in one of those directions. They've been in sales for 10 years. They've got very good at persuading people things, but maybe they're not so good at laying out a plan afterwards. So that would be set. What directions you want to go in. The really interesting stuff then, when you get into select, is selecting one of 12, and here, where we go, here's my cards, one of 12 different types of presenter, which you may want to do, which connect to some of those. So Vincent, if we were working together and and we sort of decided, wow, you're incredibly persuasive in what you're doing, but actually you've got a lot of complex AI capability you're trying to educate people in so they even understand what it is you can offer, we'd be looking at particular ones and understanding, do you want to be in a student mode, or maybe do you want to be in a sage mode? Now, that might initially seem insane. Surely you want to be the sage. Surely I want to come across the expert at all times. Yeah, but we'd be exploring actually sometimes it's brilliant to be the student. In fact, we were talking just now in a student talk, sort of, what are you learning? What am I learning? What expertise are we finding everyone else? Because sometimes the student is an even stronger way of helping people learn than the sage, because the sage knows too much. So we'd be working through and helping you to select which one. Then we get into sharpen and shift. Sharpen would be, okay, let's look at your content, let's look at your messaging. How do you sharpen that? If you are choosing to be more like the student for a while as you're sharing, presenting key elements, look, this AI is incredibly complicated. None of us know everything yet. We're all learning together, but let me show you what I've learned about how powerful the AI tools that we have and could be using. Okay, what sort of messaging would you be using with that? What sort of slide design? What sort of materials? What sort of structures? And then shift, which was the fourth areas. How do you shift your style? Because there's a difference in style of communicating between the sage and the student, and I'd be helping you think about accessing the ability to shift between them. So that's, in a short form, the sort of stuff we'd get into.
Yes.
Because with you're someone who, Vincent, we know each other a bit now. You come across as incredibly credible and knowledgeable, but there are times where actually you will help people understand things faster when I teach you to slightly lower the expectation of how much you know, and instead be shifting you more into, let me show you what I'm learning and how interesting and profoundly useful that is, because that's sometimes a way of meeting your audience in between. That's the sort of thing we'd get into.
Yeah, it's a funny you are pointing this out, because I have so for example, I have I have AI agents running my LinkedIn, reaching out to people on my behalf, running the conversations, and I have two campaigns set up, right? So one is more, I have two different audiences. One is more for a certain amount of certain people, and then the style which we created, it's more the sage, what you described. So I know I'm the expert, and then you can come and learn. And the other one, we are doing the way of more, I'm a student. So it's funny because we just put that one 2 days ago live. And this one is I'm contacting to owners, CEOs of smaller companies. And then basically the idea is like, hey, do you want to jump on a call and share ideas about AI? You know some things you are using. I know some things. Let's share ideas, and maybe I will learn something from them, and maybe I will actually utilize one of their tools what they are using, or maybe they'll learn something from me. So it's not just me as an expert, but it's more like, let's exchange ideas and learn together. And I'm testing what's going to work and how.
Yeah, and it's part of what the real power of looking at things, personas, or my language would be presenter types based around archetypes, is it just helps you make much stronger strategic choices. This is not presenting 101. This is quite advanced stuff, but hugely powerful in what it does. Let me give you another example, actually, in your world. Sometimes what you'd be doing is more in the world of creator. And creator is not someone who is in the process of being creative. Creator is someone who has created a solution to a problem. So with some of the great tools that you talk to your people about and your clients about, it's thinking as a creator, thinking like the chef in the image. If you can see the image, like the image on here, where, okay, thinking about those terms of, okay, you have come to me with a problem. Let me tell you the solution I have for you, but doing it like a creator. And what will the creator do? They will put the solution in the center. The creator stands to the side because what is important is the solution. Secondly, the solution will look probably better than the creator themselves. The creator's maybe going to look clean or in the right uniform, but what's got to look best is the solution itself. Thirdly, you're going to name this thing. This isn't just going to be AI tool. It's probably not even going to be Vincent's AI tool. It's going to be, I don't know, AI solutions tool or one-click wonder tool. You're going to give it a name. It's things like that that we work with people on to help really focus in. If you're here to share a solution to a problem, you are in creator mode. Let's give you some behaviors and some things to think about what a creator does.
Yes, absolutely. Very good, yeah. So, and is there a type of, for example, companies you are focusing on, like specifically, like when you go and do the presentation skills? If I'm just thinking if someone would be listening who is from those companies, it's more like, okay, let's contact Richard because this is us. So if there are any specific companies?
Yeah, really great. So I suppose if we specialize anywhere, it is in sort of larger size, sort of manufacturing, what would be called FMCG, fast moving consumer goods sorts of companies. Ones where, where I've worked in the past. So Procter Gamble, Mattel, Carlsberg, Velux, those sorts of big names. But don't stop there if you're not working in that sort of area, because we also work with, we work with some big but comparatively less big than those companies, charities like Trussell Trust, like Yorkshire Cancer Research. So, and we actually also work in media. We work with Channel 4 in the UK, people like that. So what it is important for you, for those listening, to know is we don't do open courses. You can't find me online and go, oh, there's a course, can I take a seat in that course? But if you've got personal needs, contact us, because we do great one-to-one coaching. If you've got a group of people, you know, of whatever number, and you want to help them, we've got courses of, you know, from 90 minutes to a full week. And if you're leading a bigger organization, especially anyone responsible for training for an organization, and you're at least curious about what is this stuff that Richard's talking about, yeah, reach out. That gives you a sense.
Okay. So let's slowly wrap up, because we are on half an hour. I have a question to ask at the end. I usually ask, if you've been ever in a situation where you kind of, you know, things were not going your way, you've been, you know, feeling down, you know, business not doing well, or personal, like, what helped you the most to overcome that situation?
So I'm going to jump to the beginning of my career, because I've been very fortunate over the last 10 years making presentations, that actually, you know, there've been good times and better times, but it's all been pretty good. But here's my advice. Early on in my career, in my 20s, I loved Procter Gamble because I loved the people and I loved the values of the company, but I didn't love my insecurity and uncertainty about where I fitted. What was I good at? Where would I be? You know, starting in sales, surrounded by very good salespeople. My tip, and it might seem an odd one, but what really helped me is having a pastime, having a hobby. And mine is singing, amateur performing, singing opera, musical theatre and stuff like that. And that has been invaluable in a myriad of ways, but I'll give you three. One, it helped me make friends, which gave me confidence that I had people who I could lean on when things were tough. Secondly, it gave me escapism. If stuff was tough at work, and it wasn't always tough at work, but when it was tough at work, I'd be then stepping out of work, going to a rehearsal, and I'd be singing Puccini or Verdi or something like that. And my brain stopped worrying about the other thing. And then thirdly, and this takes a bit of luck, in my case, that hobby became fundamental to the success of my career later on. And actually even not that much later on, because I had something I could then offer back into the company. So when I got frustrated at the level of the presentation skills, and Jonathan Brown went, well, why don't you do something about it? I suddenly realized I'd developed quite a lot of stagecraft, theatrical knowledge, vocal technique knowledge that I didn't think was going to be useful in P&G, but actually became the beginning points of this fundamental, much bigger, successful career I've had. So get a hobby for friends, for escapism, and don't be surprised if it actually then turns into a skill that becomes integral to your success later on in life.
Perfect. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I think it's very valuable to have something like that. Like, I like the point when, you know, you mentioned that, you know, you've been able to make friends, and like often I get that, like, it's people helping to overcome different situations when things are tough. So if through the hobby you can find the right people, that's amazing as well. Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah, and it's good. Look, it's good to have friends at work, and I've made very good friends at work. But if you've only got friends at work, how do you escape work? You know, and sometimes you need friends in work, but sometimes you need friends outside of work, and get a hobby, whatever that is. And it doesn't really matter what it is. Mine is singing, getting up on stage, and I still do it to this day. I'm on stage tonight in Sunday in the Park with George, a Stephen Sondheim musical in Leeds. It's still part of what I do on the side.
Nice.
But start early, in your 20s, get doing that stuff.
That's amazing. Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing, Richard, for everything. It was really good to having you. I think it'll be a very good episode. So thank you for coming.
Vincent, absolute pleasure. I loved our chat. Loved it.